Hello everyone and welcome back to another Wizard101 video, and today I'm going to be ranking every Wizard101 world in 2025, including the new world of Darkmoor. It took me 2 days to complete it, the day it came out and yesterday, and now today I'm going to be ranking this while it's still fresh in my mind at the top of my head. Again, as I mentioned in the last video, the update videos on like Darkmoor and all of the new like shadow changes and whatnot are going to be coming out soon, so don't worry about that. But today I'd like to rank the world while it is still very fresh in my head. Now you may be asking, Noah, didn't you do a ranking worlds video like 3 months ago in like September? And maybe I did, yes, but there are a few things that are going to make this video a little bit different that I figure it would be worth remaking it. Now, first off, and obviously, Darkmoor is here, which is good. Second, part 1 and part 2 of worlds are split into 2, which means that my opinions, where I've said multiple times in these tier list videos that my opinion on part 1 is very different than my opinion on part 2, I can rank them separately. On top of that, for this video, and one thing that I think will make this more interesting, is I'm going to be ranking these by my preference of these. So, for example, obviously, if you guys have watched any of these in the past, any of my videos on my opinions of the world, you know that I love Marleybone and I love Polaris. Those are going to be an S tier. It's a spoiler, I know, but they're going to be an S tier. However, I like Polaris more than I like Marleybone, so it's going to be further to the left. By the end of this video, with all of the worlds ranked top to bottom, it means that you will see my opinions front to back of every single world in this game, and you're going to have a top 5, a bottom 5. You're going to know everything you need to know about my opinions on the worlds. So anyways, enough preamble. Without further ado, let's get into it. And today I'm actually going to start with Darkmoor. Usually I go in order of the worlds, and you can see they're going to go in order after Darkmoor, but I figured I'd start with Darkmoor because most people probably want to know my opinions on Darkmoor, and also kind of, you know, it's fresh in our minds. It was just released, so I'm sure a lot of people want to know what I think about it. So Darkmoor, let's talk about it. First off, I did this entire world in a duo with my friend, front to back. It took us 2 days of like 2 7-hour sessions or so, and it took us exactly 14 hours to beat. Now, there's some important things to note about that 14-hour time. First off, we were listening to all of the dialogue, and I'm not talking like listening to half of it and then skipping to the next line. We were listening to all of the dialogue, front to back. On top of that, we did not Google a single cheat until after we had already done the bosses, which means that we figured out all the cheats ourselves. This means some fights took us barely any time at all. Like the Hierophant, we did really easily. It took us like 10 to 15 minutes. For the final dungeon, it took us like 2 hours to do that dungeon. So realistically, this world probably took us a little bit longer than you'd expect. So if I had to guess, I would say Darkmoor is probably around a 7 to 8 hour world, maybe 9 or 10, depending on, you know, how fast you can skip dialogue and move around the world. Now, I do have all of the footage from me completing this. I got it all separated into like hour length long videos, and I was thinking if you guys would be interested in it, I could edit it down and upload it into like 30-minute to an hour videos. And you know, I probably could upload that on top of regular videos, but that would probably come out slowly, like maybe once or twice a week, rather than actually, you know, a dedicated episode every day, whatever. But that's up to you guys. If there's enough interest in that, I can do that. If not, that's fine too, but I do have the footage. Now let's talk about my opinion on Darkmoor. I think this world is really, really good. I think KingsIsle cooked with this one. It's dark, it's gritty, people straight up die. The vampire Lucy straight up dies in this. We watch her crumble to dust before our eyes, and that is crazy because I don't think a lot of people have really died in Wizard101 since like what, Arc 2, Arc 3, I don't know, somewhere in that range. Like they didn't straight up die, which is a little crazy. On top of that, the characters are fun, the music is great, the world looks beautiful. It's just all around a really good world. I would say that my least favorite street was the Mortal Plain. It felt a bit long and a bit kind of empty. It is kind of just a huge plain area. I will say one fight that we actually didn't beat duo, the only fight that we had to go in and team up for was the Lord Barghest fight, because I think it is basically impossible with a duo unless you're like 2 storms or 1 storm and a balance, whatever, I don't know. But for us, we found it was basically impossible to do duo. Maybe it's because we didn't know the cheats. That's probably it. But we tried it like 7 times duoed. We failed every time. So we went into team up and we did it in a team up instead. But otherwise, every fight we managed to actually successfully complete duoed in the entire world. Take that as you will. It is not the most difficult world in the game. There are some worlds on here that would be basically impossible to do duo. I think my favorite boss fight in the entire world was probably the Gray Man fight. I thought it was very, very fun and an interesting cheat. And I think my least favorite was either the Lord Barghest. I don't think it was actually my least favorite. That one was like, eh. Actually, no, I know what my least favorite was. My least favorite was Kane Von Shane because I hate that guy. I hated his fight. It pissed me off. If I ever upload the footage, you guys will see how I struggled with that fight, but that fight really annoyed me. That was my least favorite fight. I think that Darkmoor is an S tier world, and I do quite love it. I think that it's not going to be in my top 3, but I think it will be in my top 5. So I'm going to rank it as an S tier. Again, this might be subject to change like a year down the line when I've done it multiple times, but from my first doing with no knowledge on the cheats, with only one other person instead of 4 for certain fights, genuinely think that this world was really, really good. And I think it is probably the best world King's Isle has released since Karamelle. So it's been like a good 5 years since they've released a world that I would consider to be as good as Darkmoor. So that's my opinion on Darkmoor. Now we're going to get into the regular section of this video, and these worlds are going to be much faster because obviously I'm not going to go that in depth with them as I did with Darkmoor, because Darkmoor did just come out. So let's get into the other worlds. Starting off, we have Wizard City. Now they actually have like a handy dandy second Wizard City here. So I'm going to use this one, the kind of orange one, as the old Wizard City, and this green one as the new Wizard City. I would say the old Wizard City is a B tier. I think it's more nostalgic. I think it flows better, and generally a lot of characters that I really loved were kind of killed with the new update to Wizard City. For example, Private Quinn is now kind of a weenie boy who isn't like the Giga Chad friend of the Fire Elves who wants to look for a cure. He's like a little loser guy. Lizzo Firespitter is basically just a non-character that they added as a gimmick reference, which is just like, that is the worst kind of humor in my mind. For some reason, they changed Arter and Susie Griffinbane's roles, so instead of saving Arter, you're saving Susie, which feels like oddly sexist because there was no reason to add that change whatsoever. And then finally, at the end of the world, you have to beat Field Guards after you beat Falgaze, which feels so disjointed. Like, you beat the final boss of the world, and then they're like, guess what? You gotta beat Field Guards now because of our Velma reference. I don't know. I think the old Wizard City was much better, and it flowed much better. The only thing I like from the new Wizard City is that you see Malistaire in the Death School, and that Merle Ambrose takes you to Bartleby right at the end of the world. I think that those are the 2 good changes. I think that basically everything else kind of sucks. So I would put new Wizard City in D tier, old Wizard City in B tier. Krokotopia, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, is probably also a D tier, and I would say I actually like it slightly more than Wizard City, but it's not that much more. I find that Krokotopia, if you didn't know, used to be one of my favorite worlds in Wizard101. I used to sit in Krokotopia and listen to the music for literally days when I was a kid. Like, I would go to the Chamber of Fire, go to the top of that lift thing, like at the top of the sands, and just sit there and listen to the music for literally days. Krokotopia, I think, is okay. I think the Pyramid of the Sun is my favorite section, and if Krokotopia was just the Pyramid of the Sun, it would be like a B tier, but the Krokosphinx is just a slog, and every single time I come back to Krokotopia, I want to do it less. And with the new update to Krokotopia with the graphics, basically all of the nostalgia for Krokotopia is gone anyway, so it's kind of like a D tier. I think with the nostalgia with the old graphics, maybe it pushes it to a C tier, but I don't think it's good still. I think that there's some problems with the world, and it's not the funnest world in the game, so Krok is probably a D tier. Next up, we have Wysteria, and if you don't know, the last time I did Wysteria, I actually really hated it, and I probably would still put it at a C tier, but I don't think it's as good as I remember as a kid. I think that there's a lot of nostalgia around Wysteria, and there is like a lot to it that is really fun, but I think that generally overall, in terms of a world, it is just a lot of walking. If you go and watch my Death Let's Play and watch me do Wysteria, I think probably about 30 to 40 minutes of that video is walking, and then the other 30 minutes of the hour and like 5 minutes it took me to do Wysteria was me battling. So that is how insanely long Wysteria is in terms of walking. Like, that is less than half of it is combat, over half of it is just walking back and forth between Belladonna Crisp and whoever she sends you to. Wysteria is a C tier because it still has a lot of vibes, but I think that generally it is not a fun world. All right, next up we have Marleybone, and Marleybone, as I mentioned earlier, is an S tier. I think, it could be recency bias, but genuinely, I think I might like Darkmoor slightly more than Marleybone. I think the vibes of Marleybone are so iconic. I love the rooftops. I love the music. I love the actual enemies. I love the NPCs. Everything is so nostalgic. The one thing I think Marleybone really doesn't have going for it, it is a little repetitive in terms of the quests, but I don't think that it's necessarily a detriment because Marleybone is only like a 2-hour long world, and if a world is only 2 hours, being that repetitive is kind of hard, because like if it was like a 5-hour long world and it was as repetitive as it is, it would feel much more painful, but instead it's like only 2 hours, so it's not that bad. I genuinely think Marleybone's always been one of my favorite worlds, but I'm gonna put it below Darkmoor because I think Darkmoor I had a lot more fun trying to figure out the cheats and the vibes of it. I think that Marleybone is probably slightly less than Darkmoor, but it's still an S tier world. I still really love Marleybone, and every time I do it, I enjoy it just as much as I did when I was a kid. Next up, we have Mooshu, and Mooshu is a world that I think is probably a B tier world, but I would put it above Old Wizard City. I think that Mooshu is heavily underrated by the community. A lot of people really don't like Mooshu, and I think that it's weird because I think that it's not that long of a world. I've seen some people say that it's walking, and there's a lot of walking to it, but I think that that's just a skill issue. I think you're just not using marks nearly enough as you should, or the teleporters not nearly enough as you should. I think that Mooshu is really fun. I think that front to back, it is genuinely like an overall fun world. I think that there are some streets that are slower than others that I don't really like, but I don't think it's anything like too major, but it doesn't have enough to it to make it an S tier. If, however, they updated the graphics of Mooshu in Wizard 101 to look like the graphics of Mooshu in Pirate 101, which if you haven't played Pirate 101 Mooshu, Pirate 101 Mooshu is beautiful. If they updated those graphics, it would probably be an A tier, but instead it's going to be a B tier. Next up, we have Dragonspyre, and I do think Dragonspyre is one of my favorite final worlds to an arc, but I do think it has a bit holding it back that makes it not as fun. First off, it is ugly like Mooshu. It is a very ugly world, and there are a lot of towers, and it is quite long and a bit repetitive in a lot of cases. Like, I do find a lot of the battles to be very repetitive. I think that Malistaire is a very fun villain, and, you know, we end the world, the arc, with this world. Also, there's Cyrus Drake, which is a really fun character, and I think the whole dystopian kind of end of the world vibes that Dragonspyre gives is really good. I think I would put it slightly above Mooshu in B tier, but it's not that far off. I think if Mooshu looked better, like if it looked nicer, it would definitely be above Dragonspyre, but instead I think that Dragonspyre barely ekes out over Mooshu. I think it's very, very close. All right, next up we have Grizzleheim and Wintertusk. I think Grizzleheim, genuinely for me, a lot of people love Grizzleheim. I don't really love Grizzleheim. I think Grizzleheim is long, especially Ravenscar. It takes like an hour, even if you're boosting yourself through it. It's just a little annoying at times, and it gives no XP, which really feels like a blow when you're doing it. Like, it just kind of sucks. Maybe slightly above Wysteria, but I definitely don't like it as much as anything in B tier, but I do like the vibes of Grizzleheim. The music is amazing, the NPCs are really cool, and that is really the only thing that carries it. If it wasn't for the vibes and the music of this world, like the entire aesthetic, it wouldn't even be a C tier. It would probably be down here in like D or F. That is kind of my opinion on Grizzleheim. However, Wintertusk is really good. I think Wintertusk makes up for everything that Grizzleheim lacks. It has a lot of XP. It's genuinely fun as well. It's a little bit more challenging than Grizzleheim in some ways, in a non-repetitive and non-annoying way, in my opinion. And it is quite interesting to do it if you do it around level 43, 44 instead of at like level 50 to 60. I think it's going to be our first A tier world, actually. I would put it above Dragonspyre, but it's not like vastly above Dragonspyre. I think once A tier fills out a little bit more, it's probably going to be pushed back here. I do love the vibe of Wintertusk, and I do really love the world. I just don't think it's like one of the best worlds in this game, but it is better than I'd say a lot of other worlds. Next up, we have Celestia, and this is going to be my first controversial take on this list. I like Celestia, and I've liked it for a long time now. With all of the changes they've made with Celestia, with moving the teleporters, with nerfing the enemies, whatever, this world has become a lot more fun. This world used to be very long, it used to be very annoying, there used to be a ton of walking because the teleporters teleported you to very unideal locations. Now, they've moved to the teleporters, they've kind of fixed the bosses, they've added atavistic gear, which is fun. They've also boosted the Dragonspyre world gear. I would genuinely put Celestia in A tier above Wintertusk. I think this world's vibes are really good, the music is really good, it's actually a fun world, and you get astral magic in this world, which is a massive buff to your wizard. On top of that, if you do Wintertusk before that, you reach level 60 in this world, which is another power spike, whether that be from atavistic gear or waterworks gear or zigzag, whatever. Genuinely, I do love Celestia a lot. I don't think that it is an S tier world, but it is bordering on S tier for me. I think going through this world, every time I've gone through it in the last like 3 to 5 years, it has been a genuinely fun experience, and I have liked it, except for maybe like in my balance let's play. That was frustrating, and that was before they changed Celestia really at all. I think it was before the health nerf, and it was before any of the teleporter buffs that they recently changed in like the spring update, I believe, of this year. So I'd say that Celestia is an A tier, and I do love this world, genuinely, from the bottom of my heart. Next up, we have Zafaria, and I think Zafaria is kind of a hard one for me to rank because it has been a little bit since I've done Zafaria, but I do genuinely like the world, except for the final 2 streets. I think that Zafaria I would put like just below Mooshu, but above Old Wizard City for me. If it wasn't for Drum Jungle and Elephant Graveyard, this would be an A tier, probably right next to Celestia, but those 2 final streets just drag on so much. Like, those last two streets are probably a quarter or even a third of the total of Zafaria. Compare that to the fact that Zafaria has like 7 to 8 streets. If you add it up, that should be like a fourth, but it is more than a fourth. It might even be like half of the total time of Zafaria is spent on those two streets. So I do think that that is an issue, and I think that if those were cut down a little bit, and maybe even if the vibe was changed, I don't know, like, I don't like the vibe of those streets, genuinely. So I think even if they did cut down those streets, I still wouldn't like Zafaria as much as I could. I think that the rest of it, though, is really, really fun, and the whole missing student kind of quest chain is also fun, and seeing the outcomes of Morganth, like the kind of repercussions of her back in the spiral and releasing her army, do think it's very, very cool. And Mirror Lake is a very iconic dungeon. I don't know, it's a B tier. I just don't think it would go higher with how I feel about Drum Jungle and Elephant Graveyard. Next up, we have Avalon, and I'm not gonna lie to you guys, every time I've ranked Avalon in the last like 2 to 3 years, it's gone down slightly, because I think that Avalon is one of the most nostalgic worlds for me. I love the knight aesthetic, I love the medieval aesthetic to it. It's such a fun world in that regard, but I do kind of think it does drag on so much, especially in the latter half, and it is kind of annoying to go through in repeat playthroughs, and the whole chasing down the Sword of Kings becomes really repetitive after a while. So I think I'm gonna put it into B tier, which is probably the lowest I've ever ranked Avalon, but I do think it's at the top of B tier. I would rather do Avalon than I would Dragonspyre, Mooshu, Zafaria, or Wizard City, but I do think it is bordering on A tier, but it would be at the bottom of A tier if I had to actually put it somewhere in A tier. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I think that if Avalon had a gear set, or if the Sword of Kings actually gave damage and was good, I think that maybe I would even put this a little bit higher in an A tier, but it really feels like you chase down the Sword of Kings the entire world, and that it's just like an item that you instantly trash, because it is a garbage tier item, and the fact that KingsIsle hasn't buffed it despite all of the items they've added is really insane to me. Like, this weapon should be really good. It should give like 14 to 15 damage for every school, and like 3 to 4 pierce, but instead it gives like a little bit of crit and a little bit of pierce. I don't know, it kind of sucks. I'll put it in the B tier. I think that that's a fair assessment of Avalon, and really the vibes and the aesthetic are hard carrying this world. If it was like a different world but with the exact same quest line, it would probably be like a high C tier for me instead. Next up, we have Azteca, and I'll say it, I genuinely think Azteca might be slightly overhated from the old days. KingsIsle has changed this world a lot so that the enemies are much worse than they used to be in a better way. I know that that sounds weird, but like, the enemies aren't nearly as strong as they used to be, and I do think that that's a good thing, but I do think that Azteca is still way too long. I think I might not put it in F tier. I've recently gone through it again, and I've redone like all the side quests of it, and I do think the vibes of this world are really, really good, and the music is good, the aesthetic is so good. It does really bring a sense of impending doom the entire time with Jabalba, and I think that that is so cool. I've said it before, but there is a section of Azteca between Salt Meadow Swamp and the Zoltan Dock. There is a section there where you do like 40 quests, and it is so much walking back and forth. It is a ton of boss fights over and over and over again, and it just drags on. It is like a 40 to 50 quest section in this like 200 quest world. If they cut that down, I genuinely think this world would be much better. If they like cut that section down to like 10 quests rather than the current like 40 to 50 it is, this world would be much better, and I might even put it in like C tier, genuinely, like above Grizzleheim. But as it is, it just drags on way too long. It takes like 15 plus hours, 15 to 20 hours to beat this world, even like with a modern gear set and a good pet, whatever. It's a long world. I'm gonna not put it in F tier. There's only like one F tier world in this entire tier list, and I think that honestly, even Azteca doesn't deserve to go next to it. So I'm gonna put it in the bottom of E tier, but I think that KingsIsle could introduce a few changes that would instantly propel this world much further forward. Next up, we have Aquila, and I do think that Aquila is okay. I like the vibe of it a lot, but I don't think I would put it nearly as high as I would have in the past. I think that the Greek god aesthetic and the ancient Greek aesthetic and vibes are so cool. It does feel like a monumental encounter, but I'm not gonna lie to you, at the levels you're supposed to do these, level 30, 70, and 90, this world is just like way over the top annoying to deal with, and the changes that KingsIsle added with the pity system almost make the world worse, because it is almost more difficult to get the gear than it used to be. I mean, it's about the same, I would say, but the pity system is just laughably bad. Like, defeating Zeus 35 times is ridiculous. That takes so many hours, like 20 plus hours to do. It's just the worst. I think I'll put Aquila in a C tier, but once again, I've said this with a few other worlds, this is being hard carried by vibes and aesthetic. If it wasn't for the vibes and aesthetic, if they changed it so it was the exact same world but in a different like setting, like this world would be like an F tier. Not even gonna lie to you. All right, next up we have Khrysalis Part 1, and I've said it before, but God, Khrysalis Part 1, sucks. Khrysalis as a whole is hard carried by part 2, and part 1 of Khrysalis is just long. It is the longest world in this game. Like, probably takes a similar amount of time to Azteca. There's so much backtracking. I don't even like the vibes of it. The only thing it has going for it is Divim, literally. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Like, the only thing I like about this part of Wizard101 is Divim and maybe Shadow Magic. If KingsIsle fixed Shadow Pips, that's a little bit of a spoiler for my Shadow video that I'm gonna make in the near future. But if they fix Shadow Pips, maybe. But like, I don't know. The Khrysalis part 1, it just kind of sucks. I would put it like on level with Azteca, maybe slightly higher, like around here. I don't know. It's barely higher than Azteca, to be honest. I genuinely don't like Khrysalis part 1. The only thing it has going for it is it does feel like a monumental vibe world. Like the final fight aspect of it does feel really good and does feel really cool. It's just too long. It's too annoying. I don't really like it. Khrysalis part 2, however, I do think is really fun, and I genuinely think that this is the best Khrysalis has to offer. This takes everything I said with like the monumental final fight and adds to it. It feels so monumental. You're going through this world and it feels epic. Like, it does feel that way, and it does have some of the best streets in Khrysalis as well. Like, the Sardonyx is really fun. The Conda Desert's okay. I'm not the biggest fan of that street. The Hive is pretty cool. I like the vibe of that street. Genuinely, I do think Khrysalis part 2 is much better than Khrysalis part 1. I do think it has it going for it, and by this point, you have the Darkmoor gear, or you'll get the Khrysalis World gear. I think Khrysalis part 2, I don't think I can put in A tier, but I would put it like maybe slightly right below Avalon. I do genuinely think it's similar to the Dragonspyre in terms of vibes. I think that it is still a B tier. I think that it does drag on a little bit. If the quests were cut down by like 50, maybe, I think I would put it in A tier, like right here. But because it is still too long, I think I'm going to put it in a B tier right below Avalon. I'd rather do Avalon than Khrysalis part 2. Next up, we have the Tale of 4 Dungeons, and the problem is these are once again lumped together, but my opinions on each one are different. I think I'm going to put it down here in like Grizzleheim level, maybe, like right below Grizzleheim. I think that some of them are fun. Like Keembalung Village is I don't know. Barkingham is fun to do, and I do think the vibes of it are really good. It's Marleybone. I love Marleybone. Zigzag is not my favorite. I'd probably put that in like D tier. And then Darkmoor is really, really good in terms of vibes, but compared to like the actual world of Darkmoor now, I feel like my opinion on Castle Darkmoor has fallen a little bit because it doesn't live up to that vibe that Darkmoor gives. The Malistaire fight's just really annoying. So I don't know. Maybe I'll put it in a C tier. I do genuinely think that the Tale of 4 Dungeons is interesting, but I don't think it's as good as it could be. And like, I think Zigzag and Keembalung kind of drag down the whole thing. If those 2 dungeons were better, I think maybe it would be in like B tier instead. Next up, we have Polaris, and Polaris is one of my favorite worlds in Wizard101. I think this is going to be our first one that's going above Darkmoor. There probably will be another 1 or 2 that go above Darkmoor, but Polaris is just so good. And I can't stress enough, for those of you who didn't play Polaris back when it came out, the absolute refreshing vibes of Polaris were so good at the time. Khrysalis part 1 and part 2 had just come out, and those 2 were the last world we did. And again, Khrysalis is 277 quests. So when Polaris came out and it was like 80 quests, the health of the enemies went from like 30,000 all the way down to like 10,000, and instead made up for that with more interesting cheats. The vibes of this world combined with that, it just feels so refreshing. It feels so good. Even going back to it, the vibes and the actual difficulty level of it, in my opinion, still feel really, really good. So I'm going to put this in S tier. I do think by far, hands down, Polaris is one of the best worlds in this game. In my entire time on this channel, the entire time I've spoken to this subject, I've seen maybe 5 people say that Polaris is overrated. And that's insane. Do you know how many times, how many people have commented on these videos? Like, I've probably gotten like 1,000+ comments on these world ranking videos. And again, I've only seen maybe 5 comments that said Polaris is overrated. That is insane to me. I think Polaris is just generally universally loved. I'm not going to go away from that. I do love Polaris. Next up, we have Mirage, and Mirage is one of my favorite worlds in Wizard101. I've said it before and I'll say it again. The characters are so good. I love desert planets and desert worlds, and that's like, you know, my Star Wars bias coming out from when I watched Star Wars as a kid. I love this world, and I do think it is really, really good. I would probably put it below Darkmoor, but above Marleybone maybe, but it is a close thing. I think that Mirage is really, really good. The characters are good. The only character that I don't really like is probably Ishtar, just because she is a little annoying. I don't think she's as annoying as people make her out to be. It has so many good characters like Ozymandias, the Sultana. You get my point. There's just so many good ones. And on top of that, I think this world's really interesting because it kind of subverts expectations. And all the other arcs in this game, kind of, the final fight of the world tends to be the main overarching villain. So like, we have Malistaire, we We have Morganth, obviously. But in Mirage, you actually fight Grandfather Spider in Mirage and not Empyrea. And I think that's always been really interesting. And with the twist of, you know, Grandfather Spider not ending up being like the final thing we have to fight, I think that that's really cool. And I don't know, going back to Mirage always feels so fun and so nice. I love this world, and I think it's actually heavily underrated by the community. I think it's one of the best worlds in Wizard101. Next up, we have Empyrea Part 1. And I really don't remember Empyrea that well. It's been a long time since I've done it, but I can tell you, I remember that I didn't really like Empyrea Part 1, but I did kind of like Empyrea Part 2. I think with Empyrea Part 1, I do think it's probably around here, like the top of C tier. I didn't really like it, and I didn't really like the aerial jungle. I remember not liking that street. Xanadu, I didn't really like that street either. I don't know, it kind of dragged on, and like even some of the final streets I didn't really like either, like Sapitius, I didn't really like that. I don't know, overall, this part of Empyrea wasn't really that good, and I didn't really like it. Actually, you know what, I'm gonna move Empyrea Part 2 down to below Avalon. Actually, I'm going to move it down to below Khrysalis too. Below Dragonspyre? Damn, that just felt like 5 worlds. I think that Empyrea Part 2, I would say maybe I enjoy it more than Mooshu. Do I enjoy it more than Mooshu? Do I just keep moving this down? You know what? This is fair. If I'm looking at this right here, I probably would rather do all of these worlds over Empyrea Part 2, but I do like Empyrea Part 2 better than Empyrea Part 1. The final fight with the Trident was a climactic fight. It was interesting. I remember fighting the rat and the scorpion at the end of Empyrea Part 2. I don't know. I don't remember the streets too well, but I do remember liking Empyrea Part 2 much more than I liked Empyrea Part 1. The aeroplanes were cool. That whole section of it, it was much different than anything else in Empyrea, and I did think that that was cool. So I'll put it slightly higher, but I don't think it's that much higher, actually, honestly. I think that overall, Empyrea is probably a C tier world, and Empyrea Part 2 is better than Empyrea Part 1. Next up, we have the Catacombs, and this is the world I was talking about when I was talking about Azteca, how there is an F tier world that doesn't deserve to have anything else on its level. It's the Catacombs. The Catacombs are long. They are annoying. The cheats are difficult and just absolutely asinine to deal with. Overall, I would say the fact that you don't have to do any Catacombs quests is so good. If this was a required world, I probably would have quit the game. I'm not even lying to you. I hate the Catacombs. I think the fights are way too difficult. I think that the gear, the Dragoon gear, is just not worth getting anymore. The fights aren't interesting in any way. Like, Darkmoor had some difficult fights. Like, the Lord Barghest fight was a difficult fight, and it did take me a little bit to figure out, right? And it was interesting. I loved that. All of the fights and the cheats in the Catacombs, every time I went against them, it felt like a slog, and it felt like something I never wanted to do again in my life. It's an F tier world. I'm sorry. It's like, it's not even a contest. This is my most hated section of Wizard101, and if I never have to do the Catacombs again, which luckily I don't have to, I would be more than happy. Next up, we have Karamelle, and if you guys don't know, I am a certified Karamelle lover. I love this world, and I think it is way too overhated. The vibe of the world is so cool. I love the happy-go-lucky with the sinister, dark underside. Like, I do think that this world is so good. The candy aesthetic is really fun. Maybe I just have like a whimsy to me that other people don't have. I think that I would probably put Karamelle. Actually, it's very similar to Darkmoor. I enjoy both of these worlds in a very similar extent. I would put Darkmoor maybe slightly higher. Maybe on repeats, Darkmoor will fall a little bit, but I do think Karamelle, I just love this world. I love a lot of the fights. I think the main like annoyance of it, I remember, was like the Oogie Boogies and the Aberrant Paradox fight. But overall, I don't think this world is that bad, but I do like the characters, the Cabal being introduced, the old one being introduced. This is a great start of Arc world, and I do love Karamelle. I love it so much, and I think that it's probably the most overhated Wizard101 world by far. Next up, we have Lemuria, and I genuinely don't like Lemuria. It's been a long time since I've done it, but I distinctly remember not liking most of the streets besides like the Heap, I think I liked, and Sky City was okay. I think the recycled content was interesting. Like, I do think the idea of a world that takes place with all of our like past worlds combined into one is a really cool idea. It's a really interesting idea, but I do think that Lemuria does drag on, and I don't really like it that much. Like, thinking about my favorite streets of Lemuria, I don't like most of them. Like, I don't really like most of them. I don't even remember all their names, but like the first section with the village in that jungle, I didn't like. The Badlands section, I didn't like. The Night Forest was okay. I thought that vibe was really good. Otherwise, I don't know. The Heap is good. That's really it. Sky City, I don't know. I think Lemuria is probably one of those worlds that I don't think I'd ever really like that much. Even if I like really tried to like it, I don't think I could. Next up, we have Novus, and I think Novus is a world that I find to be interesting, but it's not one of the best in the game. You know what? I think this might be our third A tier world, but I don't really like it as much as Wintertusk. I do think Novus is really, really cool, and it was a fresh world. I think that the vibe of it was really interesting. I do genuinely think it is a fun world to go through, and I did just recently complete it again on 2 of my wizards. However, I don't think that it is as good as the rest of everything above it. I think that it's good, I think that it's cool, and I think that the characters is the main strength of this world. Like, all the characters fighting for the land and being, you know, colonizers. I think that was a really fun quest line, and I do think it's really like an interesting thing. Like, design being like, why are you guys doing this? And all of the colonizers being like, haha, give me land. I don't know, I thought that that was really cool. I think Novus is interesting in that regard, so I'd put it into A tier, but I don't think I like it as much as the rest of the other A tier worlds. Next up, we have Wallaru, and I've been going through Wallaru again on 2 wizards. I think Wallaru is an okay world, but it just doesn't have enough going for it for me. I think that the vibe is really fun, but I think that the fights, like the Urk fights, like the Rage, Desperation, those ones, it drags down the world heavily. I think that those are really annoying, and I genuinely don't like them. And honestly, the funnest part of Wallaru takes place in Novus. Like, the final section of Wallaru is in Novus, and I genuinely think that that's the funnest part of Wallaru. So the fact that the best part of Wallaru is in Novus, what does that even say about Wallaru itself? I don't know. I think I like it more than Empyrea Part 2, but it's not nearly as good as the rest of B tier. Finally, we have Selenopolis, and Selenopolis is genuinely, I think it is a fun section, but it's not nearly as fun as it could be. You know what? I'm gonna put it right there. It's above Lemuria, but it's below Grizzleheim. I think that, you know what? I'm actually gonna move Grizzleheim up a tier. I think Selenopolis was cool. The vibe and the aesthetic is so good. I don't know. The questline just isn't fun, and the cheats of the bosses aren't fun. I think the best part of Selenopolis is like literally the final like 3 quests, like the part where you fight the Loon Knight and you fight the final boss Khonsu. That was my favorite part of Selenopolis. The rest of it was just kind of mediocre. I would put Selenopolis as C tier, and I am gonna have to do this again to do more of Darkmoor on my other wizards. I haven't done Selenopolis on anyone except for my myth, but I do remember genuinely not liking it. I remember the Bard fight being something I genuinely didn't like as well. Like, I didn't like the Bard fight. I thought it was just annoying, like fighting the 4 bards, the what are they called? Playwrights, drama people, I don't know, those guys. I didn't like that fight. I didn't like that section, and I genuinely found it to be very annoying, and this world kind of dragged on. It took like 6 hours to do, I think, and it was 6 hours where nothing really happened that much. I liked interacting with the past characters, but like Sarah Nightchant and Ishtar are not my favorite characters in this game. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, Sarah Nightchant felt like it was shoehorned in. Like, they needed someone from our early journey through the worlds, and they were like, who do we pick? I don't know, Sarah Nightchant. But right there, that is all of the worlds ranked, and this is going to be a bit of a long video, 30+ minutes for sure. So I hope you guys enjoyed that bit of a long one. If we look at my top 5 worlds, my top 5 currently are Polaris, Darkmoor, Karamelle, Mirage, and Marleybone. Genuinely, okay, I think Darkmoor and Karamelle could be interchanged. I think that Darkmoor could be a top 3 world, maybe not as good as Karamelle, to be honest. But again, recency bias, I don't feel unhappy with it being in my top 3, to be honest. I think that it is genuinely a really good world, and I think it's one of the best worlds KingsIsle's made in a very, very long time. I think Lemuria could actually be moved down a little bit, so it's like right next to my bottom 5, because I don't like Lemuria, if I'm going to be honest. I like it less than I like Wysteria, actually. I think that that's fair. My bottom 5 is the Catacombs. I wouldn't really count the Arcanum. Azteca, Khrysalis Part 1, Wizard City, and finally Krokotopia. I think that's a fair bottom 5, and it's like definitely these are my bottom 3. I think Wizard City and Krok could be interchanged with maybe like Lemuria and Wysteria. I don't know. In terms of my bottom 5, this is definitely my bottom 3. I could tell you that much for sure. This is my ranking of the worlds. I don't think there's going to be anything that's too crazy for most people in this list, except for maybe Celestia. I think the rest of these are non-controversial opinions majorly. I don't think any of this is too crazy. But I think that's it for today. I have to edit this absolute monster of a video, so I hope you guys enjoy. I'll be getting this out at 3 o'clock as usual, hopefully. But otherwise, that's it for today. If you enjoyed, make sure to drop a like, hit the sub button. Stick around for videos on the Darkmoor update, like the Shadow Infused spells and whatnot. They're coming out in the near future. Otherwise, that's it for today. Thank you all for watching. I will see you in the next video. Adios.